As the old saying goes, knowledge is power. But did you know that some knowledge is so terrifying we try to bury it deep within our minds and pretend it doesn't exist? Here are 5 creepy past lives I wish I never knew about. Number 5. The Devil's Whisper. Let me start this list off with a life I lived during the 17th century in England. I was a young minister named Thomas, and my job was to save the souls of my congregation. I preached about God's love, taught children Sunday school, and married couples. My life was simple. Then a family moved into town who would change everything. They were the Marsh family, and their son Samuel had a dark secret. He experienced regular demonic possessions, and his parents believed I could help. Their request was unorthodox, but I was desperate to prove myself. If I could drive the demon out of Samuel, I would become famous. So I brought them into my home and we began religious rituals. However, I made a mistake. After casting out demons, you must immediately christen the person, and I waited too long. The demon's grip only grew stronger and eventually took control of me. It forced me to sign a document declaring that I would allow Satan to claim my soul once I die. With the agreement complete, it left me and went directly to Samuel. It spoke through him, revealing how it had possessed me all along. I realized it used me to plan this attack, to get inside the Marsh household and corrupt the boy. To stop it, I used a Bible to banish it from Samuel and break the contract. It took weeks, but I saved the boy and learned a lesson about pride and arrogance. In my next life was born into a wealthy family. I was happy and carefree, but little did I know the darkness lurking beneath the surface. My father was a wealthy landowner, and he enjoyed hunting. One day while shooting rabbits, he stumbled upon a small cottage deep in the woods. Intrigued, he decided to investigate. He knocked on the door, and an emaciated woman answered. She invited us in, and inside, he saw the most gruesome sight. Her hut was covered in animal skins, skulls and bones, with pentagrams drawn on the floor and walls. She offered us tea and explained her craft. She was a witch who lived alone and survived by hunting animals for food. My father, skeptical at first, started believing her tales of magic and curses. He ordered her to prepare a potion that would make him the richest man in England. Little did he know, she planned to use his soul to increase her power. She told him to bring his entire family to her house on Halloween night for the ritual. My mother and siblings listened to my father and agreed, but I refused, feeling a strange dread. That night, we all boarded up the windows and doors, but in the middle of the night, I felt something brush against my cheek. I opened my eyes and saw a ghastly white hand. I screamed, alerting my entire family. We ran downstairs and outside, but the second we stepped foot outside, we disappeared forever. Our souls belonged to the witch. She used our fear and anger to gain power, while I wandered aimlessly through the afterlife, trapped for eternity. No. 3. Serial sinner. This is a life I lived in the early 1900s. I was a man named Henry Dirks, and I was born into wealth. My father owned several factories and railroads, ensuring our comfortable lifestyle. From a young age, I was fascinated by psychology and philosophy. By day, I worked in sales, but by night, I was a volunteer hypnotist at a local theater. I believed I could help people overcome their problems, but I had no idea the evil lurking within me. During a hypnosis session, a woman confessed to killing her husband, claiming I had convinced her to do it. I didn't believe her and continued helping people. But that's when the nightmares started. Every night I dreamed of a shadowy figure committing terrible crimes. I shook these thoughts off until one day, when I found a dead woman in my apartment. I panicked and fled. I jumped from state to state, changing my name and appearance. But everywhere I went, I found women dead. I soon realized I was responsible for those deaths, driven by an evil presence. For years, I hid, haunted by my crimes. But eventually, I was caught. I received the death penalty, and that's where my story takes a turn, as they led me to the electric chair. You felt relief believing it would end my pain, but then something unexpected happened. The moment the current coursed through me, my vision expanded. I saw my life flashing before my eyes, and I understood. I had been possessed by a demon that used me to commit evil. After my execution, my soul was tormented for eternity. I learned that sometimes escaping one prison means facing another. Number 2, the island's curse. Let me transport you to ancient Greece. I was born in a small village on a remote island. My family were fishermen, and life was hard but peaceful. But one day, a terrible storm hit, destroying many boats and homes. People struggled to survive, and soon disease swept through the community. Villagers blamed me, claiming I angered the gods. I tried to help, but nothing I did could stop the destruction. Desperate for a solution, I went to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance. She told me the only way to save my island was to sacrifice my daughter to the sea. I was heartbroken, but willing to do anything to save my people. One chose my eldest daughter, preparing her for the sacrifice. But at the last moment, my youngest, Medea, stepped in. She volunteered to take her sister's place and begged me to let her go. Overwhelmed with emotion, I embraced her. And in that moment, the ground shook. A massive wave pulled my boat away from shore. I cried out for my daughter, but the sea swallowed her whole. Enraged, I vowed revenge. I promised to unleash hell upon the world, destroying everything in my path. As I rose from the depths of the sea, I became Poseidon, god of the ocean. With my newfound powers, I flooded entire villages and unleashed monstrous creatures. But no matter how much destruction I caused, it never satisfied me. And to this day, I roam the earth, taking vengeance on mankind. No, one reincarnation of hate. Allow me to take you back to feudal Japan. I was born into a noble samurai family and trained rigorously in the arts of war. My skills were unmatched, and I became known as the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi. I led armies into battle, conquering many foes, but I also encountered a monk who introduced me to Zen Buddhism. His teachings intrigued me, and I began practicing meditation. Soon, I found myself torn between two paths, the warrior and the spiritual. The conflict was consuming me. I decided to test my fate by dueling the strongest swordsman of the time. I defeated my opponent and emerged victorious, but after the battle, I realized the emptiness of violence. I abandoned my old ways and devoted myself to Zen. I traveled the country, seeking enlightenment and helping others. But peace didn't last. The shogun, the military ruler of Japan, summoned me for a mission. He wanted me to kill a rogue samurai who threatened his power. Torn between my vows of nonviolence and loyalty to my lord, I chose to obey. I found the renegade samurai and challenged him to a duel. But as I prepared to strike the fatal blow, I hesitated. The man's face was familiar, and suddenly I saw him not as an enemy, but a brother. I spared his life and refused to kill him. Shocked by my decision, the shogun banished me from Japan. Alone and disillusioned, I spent my remaining days writing poetry and contemplating my existence. I died believing I had found inner peace. But when I was reborn, I was consumed by hate. I hated the samurai way of life. I hated the teachings of the monks. And most of all, I hated myself. Why had I betrayed my lord? Why had I abandoned my duty? Filled with resentment, I searched for answers. Eventually, I discovered the truth. In a previous life, I had been a loyal samurai who sacrificed his life to protect his master. But instead of being celebrated, I was cursed by a rival clan, causing me to reincarnate over and over, forever consumed by hate and self-loathing. Now it's time to make your voice heard. Comment below which of these lives was the most shocking. And hey, if you want to know more about similar topics, check out the playlist of videos. Don't forget to subscribe because knowledge is power, and the more you know, the more you grow. Until next time, keep your mind open and your shadows closer.